Welcome to the Grove Society's History in the Park. I'm Dan Steffens, and I'm very happy to see you here. The Grove Society is powered by a terrific group of people, members, officers, directors, volunteers, and we're very grateful for all of them. I always hesitate to give special thanks to anyone. Everyone who helps is special. But this event here today, there are some whose contributions are unique to this event, and without them, this event would not be what it is. I could talk for hours to what Gene Pruden has done for us today. Thanks, Gene. The Night Owl brought us a special lunch, and BlueScope Buildings paid for it. Thanks for lunch, BlueScope. If you've ever helped out in any way, thank you. If you haven't yet, you're welcome to join us. What do? We care for a museum with 2 historic buildings. We host programs dealing with Evansville history, including this annual History in the Park event. If you'd like to pitch in, whether it's for a few hours or an ongoing role, we'd love to have you. We're affiliated with the Wisconsin Historic Society, and there's a place for every skill and schedule here. Talk to Christine Thom and let her know how you'd like to get involved. Thanks for being here. We're glad you came, and we're looking forward to sharing some fantastic stories with you today. The Evansville Lions Club was chartered in 1925, so this is its centennial year. That's 100 years of service, community engagement, and good old-fashioned Wisconsin volunteer spirit. Happy 100th year to the Evansville Lions. This shelter, built in 1959, was constructed using materials donated by Pruden Products, Laufenberg Lumber, and the Evansville Lions Club, with labor provided by Pruden and members of the Lions. Today we're celebrating 75 years of Pruden Products. Who knows what this is? Who was in New York in 1964? Or 65. This is the Wisconsin Pavilion from the 1964-1965 New York World's Fair. Its image and story are still used by BlueScope to promote the company. Bob Varner was born in 1917 in Marvell, Arkansas. Clark Pruden was born in 1915 near Nashua, Iowa. Both began successful steel building companies when their friends had needs that Bob and Clark independently could fill. Bob's first building was completed in 1946. R.G. Varner Steel Products was founded in Stevens, Arkansas in 1948. Pruden Products started in 1950, manufacturing farm equipment in Fort Atkinson, 75 years ago. Clark Pruden graduated from Iowa State College in 1939 with a degree in agricultural engineering. In 1940, Clark began working for Armco Steel in Middletown, Ohio. At Armco, Clark met Gene Kandel. 5 years out of college, in 1944, Clark got a job with Evans Product in Detroit, Michigan, doing what he wanted to do, designing farm buildings. The James Manufacturing Company in Fort Atkinson offered Pruden a job, and he took it. He worked as an engineer designing fans and ventilation systems. After 5 years without a salary increase, Clark grew restless. Bob Varner built his first building in 1946. That was in Stevens, Arkansas. Using discarded oil field tubing and innovative welding techniques, he fabricated pipe trusses to build wide-span post-free buildings. That first building was an ice plant. R.G. Varner Steel Products specialized in building brick plants and was incorporated in 1952. The company built a new fabrication plant north of Pine Bluff, Arkansas in 1954. They had 15 employees. In 1956, Varner built a building in Richmond, Virginia. The city got an injunction to tear down the building that Varner had built. The city wanted to see Bob's structural calculations. What calculations? There were none. The city allowed Bob to load the building with bricks to exceed the required loading. He sat in a rocking chair in the building, reading the morning newspaper while reporters and bystanders looked on. The city accepted the structure, and the building was not torn down. The company moved again in 1957 to another Pine Bluff location. They had 25 employees. In 1959, R.G. Varner Steel Products built their first rigid frame steel building. They had $2 million in annual sales. We start seeing the name Varco for the first time in 1961, and the company became Varco Steel Incorporated in 1962. In 1950, Clark Pruden and Gene Candle, with $7,600, faith and a dream, launched Pruden Products Company in Fort Atkinson. Clark designed fans and had parts fabricated by others. Then he assembled the fans and marketed them to feed and poultry dealers. Before Gene Pruden, that's Clark's son, was old enough to be in school, his job was to count out the correct number of nuts and bolts required for each fan to be assembled. And Gene told me that he added a couple extra nuts because you could easily lose those. The office consisted of a desk behind a piano in the living room. Dorothy, Clark's wife, ran the office. This was a family affair. Pruden Products fans were selling well in Wisconsin and northern Illinois for about a year. When sales slowed, Clark associated with the Valet Company of Chicago to sell fans. The Valet Company was a distributor who was operated by Val and Arnold Shizmowski, along with their sister, who ran the office. They had about 10 salesmen covering the area between Ohio and Nebraska. Clark gave each salesman a Stetson hat when they had sold 25 fans. Clark said he just loved buying hats. Val, the leader of Valet Company, liked what Pruden was doing. One day, Val told Clark that he was having trouble getting delivery of automatic poultry feeders from the Creeder King Company of Goshen, Indiana. Val told Clark, "You should go over and buy them out." Clark's response, "No way, both our nickels are tied up in the fan business." On their way to Goshen, Gene Candle and Clark stopped in Cleveland, met an attorney, got advice, borrowed $200 from the lawyer, proceeded to Goshen, and bought an option. On the way back from Goshen, Gene broke a shoestring. Clark says, "Please let me have that broken shoestring. If any two guys ever started a manufacturing business on a shoestring, this is it." That was 1952. That shoestring stayed in Clark's drawer. It represented how a couple of farm boys started a manufacturing business without capital. Pruden Products rented 3,000 square foot of factory space in Fort Atkinson. Pruden Products picked up their option that they had paid $200 for and paid $1,500 cash for equipment and inventory, plus another $1,500 to be paid at the end at the rate of $50 per feeder delivered for the first 30 feeders. One flatbed truck transported all the inventory and equipment from Goshen to Fort Atkinson. Sales were good, and they outgrew the Fort Atkinson space that they had rented, and there was no other space in Fort Atkinson. Leonard Eager of Union Bank and Trust in Evansville was instrumental in bringing Pruden Products to Evansville. If you recognize this building, okay, I admit it. The building was demolished in 1951, but it's so much more interesting than the bank that replaced it. So. In 1954, Pruden Products bought the 20,000 square foot Fall River Canning Company building in Evansville and relocated here. The building included some masonry and some wood parts. The Evansville Canning Company was organized here in 1910. After changing owners and names many times, the Fall River Canning Company building was condemned for canning purposes. Pruden purchased a new 10-foot press brake to form feeder troughs and fan parts. Business slowed. To make ends meet, the Pruden family raised and sold chickens out of the old Canning Company building. A humble but enterprising chapter in Evansville's industrial story. The chickens were kept on the second floor. One hot summer day, the doors were opened for the health and safety of the chickens. Yeah, you got it. The chickens quickly became free-ranging chickens. Not to test city zoning, the chickens were returned to the second floor. Doors were kept closed, and Clark's ventilation fans got a workout. Pruden was aware of steel building frames being manufactured by the Kuckler Steel Span Company of Monticello, Iowa. Kuckler also had a facility in Turlock, California. Clark built his first building in 1955 using steel truss frames similar to Kuckler's steel truss frames. In 1956, an opportunity opened a door for Pruden Products that altered the course of Evansville's industrial story, shaped the lives of the Prudens and the Candles, and left a lasting mark on the metal building industry. As Clark Pruden recalled it, it was Willard Lowe of Steel-Built Structures in Madison who sparked the idea with just a few words. We could sell some steel frames if you would make them for us. That proposal in 1956 propelled Pruden Products from a regional manufacturer of farm equipment into a driving force into the metal building industry. Pruden Products display models like this were used by Pruden Products dealers and were usually in front of their businesses. The model was used to make people aware of Pruden's activity and his advertising. Clark commented on the success of his steel frame, saying, "We out-Kucklered Kuckler." With that, he sold the fan portion of Pruden Products. The company that bought the fan operation is now known as JD Manufacturing, and they still use the Pruden name on a portion of their product line. Pruden was experiencing good demand for their new type of farm buildings, which utilized easily assembled steel frames for structures up to 40 feet. Wood girts between the steel frames permitted fast application of steel or other siding with nails. Available in any length, the buildings were most commonly used for cattle and machine sheds on farms and for industrial and warehousing purposes. On the left, the steel framework for the building that replaced the wood part of the Canning Company structure in 1958 was tested with sandbags weighing more than the design load. The building in the background was sold to Art Rasmussen, and he moved it to 2nd Street and used it for a garage. This expansion, Pruden Products' second edition, added 6,000 square feet of space to the Evansville plant, making the total plant space 30,000 square feet. Pruden was working a 45-hour week with 45 men on the day shift and 10 at night. Pruden was looking at new market opportunities in 1959, adding commercial structures to the agricultural products being sold. Engineering improvements were made and products were patented. The 3 Jeeps being supported by the steel frame weighed 10,000 pounds. That's equivalent to over 20 pounds per square foot uniform roof load. The steel frame weighed 500 pounds, which means it carried 20 times its own weight. Here's a Varco ad from 1961. Better buildings for less. Designed for grain storage, drying, cattle, hogs, poultry, machinery, equipment, anything else you could think of on the farm. R.G. Varner Steel Products, became Varco Steel Incorporated in 1962. A 100-foot by 150-foot warehouse addition to the Pruden Products building was completed in 1961. In 1962, Clark Pruden created the Pruden-Dixie Corporation. The Pruden-Dixie Corporation was registered in West Virginia and was classified as a Florida Domestic Profit Corporation. It had 2 addresses and 2 phone numbers, both in Evansville, Wisconsin. A warehouse was built in Cocoa Beach, Florida. In 1961, each state was invited to have a pavilion at the World's Fair in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park in Queens, New York City. Wisconsin's Governor Gaylord Nelson did not respond to the invitation, but referred it to the Wisconsin Department of Resource Development. The concept of having a pavilion at the World's Fair became a political football. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy delivered remarks at the groundbreaking ceremony of the U.S. Pavilion at Flushing Meadows. His speech emphasized the fair's theme, peace through understanding, and framed the event as a showcase of American ideals and innovation. As president, during the fair's opening, Lyndon B. Johnson contributed the introduction to the official souvenir book. His words helped set the tone for the fair's message of progress and unity. This dual involvement, Kennedy in the planning and ceremonial launch, and Johnson in the official representation and messaging, makes the 1964-65 fair the only World's Fair with direct contributions from 2 sitting U.S. presidents. A crop cover was constructed near the Pruden plant in the summer of 1962, and a tomato crop was planted in the fall. Pruden was testing it for marketing. Exhaust heat from 2 liquid petroleum heaters was directed between 2 layers of polyethylene covering. Heat from the sun was sufficient to maintain 65 to 70 degrees on clear days when the outside temperature was above 10 degrees. In April 1963, fire destroyed the offices, floor of the 2nd floor, and roof of the 2-story space, but did not spread to the manufacturing section of the plant or the paint and varnish storage areas. In 1963, there were several expansions, including the addition of a 10,000 square foot office building designed by John Steinman. Total manufacturing, warehousing, and office area exceeded 75,000 square feet. Plans were underway for the World's Fair in New York, a global showcase for innovation and culture. One evening in 1963, while listening to the news, Clark Pruden learned that Wisconsin was going to decline the invitation to have a pavilion at the fair, citing the lack of funds. Finding this unacceptable, Clark called the office of the governor the next morning with an offer. He would donate a building, ensuring Wisconsin would have its place on the world stage. Architect John Steinman of Monticello, Wisconsin, designed the pavilion using only standard Pruden Products metal components. In May of 1964, Pruden Products opened the doors for their new office building to the public. Pruden's pavilion was the least expensive on a per square foot basis of any of the World's Fair's exhibits. The building cost the taxpayers of Wisconsin nothing, and it was constructed without using any tax funds. The Wisconsin Pavilion included the rotunda, that's the teepee, and an exhibit hall which was U-shaped and wrapped 3 sides of the rotunda. The rotunda provided 1,800 square foot of space free to the state. There is almost 20,000 square foot of space in the rotunda and the adjoining exhibit hall. The state did appropriate funds for the operation of the pavilion and for a state exhibit in the pavilion. Okay, at the entrance here you can see the model, the architect's model. It resides in the pavilion up in Neillsville on the 2nd floor. It's here today thanks to Kevin Grapp, owner and operator of the Pavilion and Central Wisconsin Broadcasting, and Gene Pruden. Pruden officials and Jack Olson, Wisconsin's lieutenant governor in Evansville, seen off the first truckload of Wisconsin Pavilion on its way to New York. Another photo opportunity in Evansville. And I hope some of you recognize some of these folks. I recognize Clark Pruden and John Steinman. Governor John Reynolds made sure he had his photo opportunity when the Wisconsin Pavilion in trucks was parked at the Capitol. Both the governor and the lieutenant governor were running for political office next election. Pruden delivered the pavilion in 7 well-marked trucks, each loaded with 30,000 pounds of Pruden steel. Once it got to New York, the pavilion was constructed in 96 days. The pavilion was dedicated on June 18th, 1964, nearly 2 months after the fair opened. The pavilion included the rotunda in which one found cultural and commercial exhibits, and the exhibit hall in which one found the world's largest cheese, the Golden Giant, commercial exhibits, a trout pond, a cheese booth, and the Red Garter Banjo Beer Parlor, and Tad's Steakhouse, the most popular restaurant at the fair, serving over 15,000 Wisconsin beefsteak dinners daily. The state had committed $35,000 to have the world's largest cheese made for the fair prior to the state deciding not to participate. That fact and Clark Pruden's donation of the building were compelling arguments for the state to be at the fair. A first-class letter required a 5-cent stamp. Gasoline was 25 cents a gallon. Minimum wage was $1.15 an hour. And average annual income was about $6,000. The architect's rendering of the pavilion made a mighty fine postcard. After the fair closed, Ivan Wilcox bought the pavilion for $5,000, dismantled it, and returned the rotunda to Wisconsin. In 1965, Howard Sturtz and Wayne Grapp purchased the rotunda and moved it to Neillsville. They hired John Steinman, the original architect, to reconstruct the building and design its lower level and interior. The rotunda was reconstructed in Neillsville in 1966, and it was dedicated in 1967. Pruden Steel assisted and replaced missing or damaged pieces. Governor Knowles visited the construction site during construction in Neillsville. The exhibit hall found its way to Camp Rama in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, where it was used as a kitchen, dining hall, and recreation hall. Pruden Products used an image of the Wisconsin Pavilion as its stationary heading. John Steinman's father, brother, and son were all architects. His family co-owned and operated a lumber company in Monticello, Wisconsin. St. John's Lutheran Church was designed by architect John Steinman and was dedicated in 1958. An addition by Madison architect Robert Torkelson was added in 1970. The church is on the state and national registers of historic places. Gonstead Clinic of Chiropractic in Mount Horeb, constructed in 1964, was designed by John Steinman. The building is on the state and national registers of historic places. A model of the proposed World Trade Center was on display at the fair. Construction started in 1966 and the building was finished in 1975. Pruden Products in the 1960s. There were new products, new markets. In June 1966, Varco Steel's principal office was located in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. This was the company's base of operation where Bob Varner and engineer Jack Hatcher pioneered rigid frame metal buildings. Starting in 1962, Pruden Products had sustained an annual growth of 40%, reflecting its strong position in the pre-engineered metal building market. Excellent steel building sales in 1965 and 1966 required Pruden to expand its facilities. Other cities wanted Pruden Products to relocate. Clark's response to that was, "We're not going anywhere. We like it here." He prepared a brochure titled, "We Like It Here." It showed schools, parks, churches. The Chamber of Commerce used it to attract new business. Pruden offered it free for distribution. At that time, the company manufactured complete steel buildings, building components, and maintained sales offices and dealers throughout the nation. In 1966, Pruden Products cleared 20 acres of land directly south of their existing factory for a new manufacturing facility. Pruden Products had recorded record-breaking growth, a significant increase in employment, and launched the company's largest construction initiative in 1966. On the newly acquired 20-acre site, a new fabrication building with an attached material storage facility was constructed. This expansion increased total production space to over 120,000 square foot, a 50% increase in 1 year. Employment rose from 175 in 1965 to more than 200 in 1966. Looking ahead, company president Clark Pruden announced plans to unveil a new open web steel truss in 1967. This innovative structural system transformed metal building solutions for large-scale industrial and manufacturing applications. April 1967, Governor Warren Knowles dedicated the new facility in a public address to over 400 people. In July 1967, Governor Knowles dedicated the pavilion. The building, now the home of WCCN and WPTG radio stations and a Wisconsin Products gift shop, is open to the public during regular business hours. The pavilion is on the state and national registers of historic places. Chatty Bell, the world's largest talking cow, has been welcoming visitors for almost as long as the radio stations have been broadcasting from the Neilsville site, and she will happily provide you with a history of the pavilion for just 25 cents. And the name Chatty Bell was a competition for that name. That competition was won by a local first grader. Pruden Products had become more than a builder of farm and industrial buildings. The Varco Steel North Carolina facility began operations in 1966, becoming the first building systems manufacturer in North Carolina. The plant saw several additions in the 70s and 80s. In 1967, 2 employees of Pruden Products, both of Evansville, were elected to vice presidential positions, merchandising manager Paul Cuck and sales manager Bob Kelly. Clark had promoted both of these men quickly through the ranks. He considered them stars. By 1967, Pruden Products, the largest employer in Evansville, had reached annual sales of $7.5 million. Completely insulated for winter playing comfort, this sport court featured straight sidewalls that eliminated obstructions and provided maximum usable inside space. Light panels at the top of the walls provided adequate natural light for daytime play. Fuqua Industries was a rapidly growing conglomerate known for its aggressive strategy of acquiring, reorganizing, and selling companies. Founded in 1965, the company was officially incorporated in 1968. Fuqua acquired Varco Steel, then Pruden Products, in 1968. and Pruden Products merged with Varco Steel that year to become Varco Pruden. The name Varco Pruden was Clark Pruden's suggestion. Clark Pruden was chairman of the board of directors, and Jack Hatcher was president of Varco Pruden. Varco Pruden headquarters was in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. In 1968, Varco Pruden was ranked 5th in the metal building industry. Varco Pruden acquired Wisconsin Tank Tainer, a manufacturer of large fuel tanks, in 1968 and moved their operations to Evansville. That year, Varco Pruden expanded the Evansville plant, increasing the total facility size to more than 125,000 square feet. In 1969, Clark Pruden and Gene Campbell provided financial assistance to Paul Cutt, a Pruden Products vice president, to form Regal Marine Industries in Orlando, Florida. Clark Pruden served on the board of directors of Regal Marine Industries from 1969 to 1999. Regal Marine Industries still exists and remains active in Orlando under the name of Regal Boats. The company is still owned and led by members of the Cook family. The Turlock, California plant opened its doors in 1969, and Turlock was part of Varco Pruden's westward expansion strategy, establish coast-to-coast manufacturing. Dombrico Incorporated, a subsidiary of Dominion Bridge, acquired Varco Pruden from Farquhar in 1971. Varco Pruden had annual sales of about $25 million. With this change of ownership, Varco Pruden's headquarters was moved to Memphis, Tennessee. In 1971, Dominion Bridge operated out of Montreal, Canada, and Dombrico was headquartered in Hanover, New Hampshire. They became AMCA after acquiring Varco Pruden. They became AMCA International Corporation in 1974. In 1981, Dominion Bridge Company became AMCA International Limited, aligning its identity with its increasing dominant U.S. operations. Pruden-Dixie Corporation, incorporated in 1962, was active for just over a decade before being dissolved in 1973. In 1973, Varco Pruden initiated a program of product unification and automation to pull together Varco Pruden's for-profit centers into a systematic production unit. Varco Pruden developed a product and engineering system that handled both the standard building concept with the advantage of speed and low cost, and the custom building concept with the advantage of design flexibility. There were no predetermined standards, no restrictions on length, width, or height dimensions, no cost penalties for construction time delays. Pruden Steel, acquired by Varco Steel in 1973, was established in 1913 in Boston, Massachusetts. It was developed as Pruden Steel Garage Company. The New England Profit Center increased Varco Pruden's capacity to better serve the Northeast. In 1975, Varco Pruden President Bill Roos established an advisory council of 25 outstanding builders. The first meeting of the President's Advisory Council held in South Carolina. You had Bob Kelly, a Pruden Products Vice President in 1967, and at that event was Varco Pruden's Executive Vice President, and Dean Axtell, Varco Pruden's Vice President and General Manager of the Evansville plant. They were among the attendees at that first meeting. Varco Pruden introduced a new line of buildings for the agricultural community in 1975. Clark Pruden's first building served that same purpose. VP's newest product, called General, was spotlighted at the Farm Show in Malta, Illinois in 1975. In 1976, Bob Kelly was named president of Varco Pruden. He played a pivotal leadership role in the evolution of Pruden Products and Varco Pruden. In 1968, Varco Pruden was fifth in the industry. In 1971, when Dominion Bridge purchased Varco Pruden was fourth in the industry, closing on third. In 5 years, with Varco Pruden's financial and management expertise and Dominion Bridge's investment, Varco Pruden went from fourth to second in the industry. In 1977, Kelly's goal was to be number one in the industry, and he believed he had the money, the people, and the distribution network to do it. Bob described Varco Pruden as the most uncommonly dynamic and powerful force in the metal building industry. In 1980, the Missouri facility was built, and in 1985, it had over 147,000 square foot of manufacturing space on a 19-acre site. Strand Steel, a division of Strand Building, was known for producing Quonset huts. In 1983, AMCA International purchased Strand Steel and formed AMCA Buildings Division. Varco Pruden and Strand operated within that AMCA division, headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. John Johnston was named president of Varco Pruden Buildings. He began working for Pruden Products in the engineering department in 1960. Since that time, he had served as engineering manager, operations manager, vice president, and general manager in Evansville, North Carolina, and California profit centers. In 1979, Johnston was promoted to vice president of operations in Memphis. The first Quonset huts were manufactured in 1941 when the United States Navy needed a lightweight, all-purpose building that could be shipped anywhere and assembled without skilled labor. They could be assembled in a day by a 10-person team with only hand tools. After World War II, 1945-46, returning veterans taking advantage of the GI Bill's education benefits doubled UW-Madison's enrollment, creating an urgent need for classrooms, labs, and housing space. The university installed 15 Quonset huts across campus. Most of the huts were removed by the 1960s. The last remaining hut, Q15, served as an engineering lab, a metal sculpture foundry, and finally, as a glass lab. It was demolished in 2004. I'm told we have more than one Quonset hut in Evansville. This is one I found. Varco Pruden purchased a manufacturing facility in Rainsville, Alabama, their sixth profit center, in 1985. The Goodyear blimp hangar in Pompano Beach, Florida is 45,000 square foot, large enough to house 2 fully inflated blimps. The hangar was dedicated in 1986, and its first resident was the Enterprise, which you see in the hangar on the right. The blimp hangar at the Pompano Beach Air Park was part of the major expansion of Goodyear's airship operations. Clark Pruden retired from Varco Pruden after serving as first chairman of the board of directors. In 1989, Varco Pruden's Turlock plant celebrated its 20th anniversary. It was the largest plant in the building systems industry in the western part of the country. In its first 20 years, Turlock had 7 general managers, 3 of which became president of Varco Pruden. One of those 3, someone you've seen before, Bob Kelly, then became president of AMCA International Corp. In 1990, Clark Pruden wrote, "It seems more credible now than when it happened. We were too occupied with the activity at hand to take note of the progress that was taking place. It was no different than many other success stories, but it was our story." Dwayne Stockburger was made president of Varco Pruden in 1990. He succeeded Bill Howell, who was promoted to executive vice president of the AMCA building. In 1997, LTV Corporation of Cleveland acquired Varco Pruden Building Division from United Dominion Industries. Varco Pruden was the nation's second largest metal building systems business. with 1,600 employees and 8 domestic manufacturing facilities. They had joint venture manufacturing facilities in China, Brazil, and Argentina. Their buildings were marketed to 1,000 builders and distributors in the US and Canada. Revenues were $305 million in 1996. In 1998, Varco Pruden Buildings Incorporated established a joint venture with Grupo IMSA of Monterrey, Mexico, forming IMSA Varco Pruden to serve Mexican, Central American, and Southern U.S. markets. In 2000, Varco Pruden Buildings reported $400 million in revenue, employed 2,300 U.S.-based workers, and operated joint venture plants across Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and Chile, many in cooperation with IMSA. In 2001, Grupo IMSA of Monterrey, Mexico acquired Varco Pruden Buildings Incorporated from LTV Corporation. IMSA's acquisition transformed a prior joint venture with Varco Pruden into full ownership. Grupo IMSA was a diversified industrial leader known for innovations in steel, polyester, and acrylic building systems. 2005, Clark Pruden visited his first building, which was built in 1955. Varco Pruden, Evansville, 2008. Varco Pruden's building in Memphis, 2008. From 1968 to 2006, Varco Pruden expansions at the Evansville facility included 40,000 square foot of additional plant area and a 22,000 square foot shipping and warehouse complex. These developments brought the facility to 235,000 square foot of office and manufacturing space situated on an 80-acre site. BlueScope Buildings North America, headquartered in Kansas City, Missouri, acquired Varco Pruden in early 2008. The Kansas City headquarters is also the headquarters of BlueScope Properties and Butler Manufacturing, which is owned by BlueScope. BlueScope Steel Limited, the parent company, is located in Melbourne, Australia. BlueScope now owns both Varco Pruden and Butler Manufacturing and maintains their separate identities, allowing each to serve distinct building networks. Varco Pruden is now a brand of BlueScope, and its headquarters remains in Memphis, Tennessee. The Evansville plant continues to operate on the site developed by Pruden Products. The Varco Pruden plant in Turlock, California officially ceased operations in 2009. 2009 also saw the closing of the Kernerville, North Carolina plant, which had been operating since 1966. Here you can see some of the BlueScope manufacturing facilities in the United States and Mexico. In 2009, Clark and Dorothy Pruden stand in front of Clark's first building at the Ralph Crocker Farm. Clark had to say, our present is made possible by somebody else's history. History is simply a record of their present. In 2012, Stephen Hudak sent a postcard to Gene Pruden. This pavilion of your father's was critical to the success of Pruden Products and to Varco Pruden today. As of 2011, Stephen Hudak had been with Varco Pruden Buildings for over 25 years. Stephen wrote the Bob Varner, Clark Pruden, Varco Pruden story. That book is over on the table if you wanted to leaf through it. In October 2013, Clark Pruden was inducted into the Metal Construction News Hall of Fame. Gene Pruden gave a speech honoring his father and accepted the MCN Hall of Fame plaque, which again is over on the table over there if you want to look at it. The plant has facilities between Water Street and Walker Street, and some of to the south of Walker, and there's plenty of land remaining to be developed. If you can see the heavy black lines I drew on the map, that area shows the developed and the open area to the south on that 80-acre site. And this year saw what may be the last of the Cannon Company, although some of it may still be enclosed in some of the metal buildings that's there. Keep in mind, today is tomorrow's history. BlueScope's Evansville plant manager, Tony Hicks, is going to tell us what's going on at the plant today and what its future may be tomorrow. Tony and I will field questions after Tony's comment. Are you still here, Tony? Please welcome Tony Hicks.
Well, as you can tell, I'm from the South, and so before I butcher the English language, and I just want to let you know, give you a heads up. But yes, I came part out of the Rainsville, Alabama plant 3 years ago. Came to Wisconsin here and tried to learn a little about Evansville and Varco Pruden. And so it's been a good challenge. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's been a good journey. So I've had great people that I've been able to meet in the Evansville community since day one, since we came here. The big challenge for me is when I got to Evansville and people would ask me, of course, with my southern lingo, they want to know where I was from. And so I told them, and then they asked me the company that I work for. And I told them BlueScope, and I got this deer look stare in my face, and I thought, BlueScope's been around a pretty good while. But everybody knew it as Varco Pruden, and they didn't know it as BlueScope. So for me and my staff, and we tried to change that culture just a little bit. Varco Pruden is history to Evansville, and the new day is as the journey continues is BlueScope. And so with that journey, two men took a dream and where we're at today. BlueScope is a company, it's out of Australia. It's a 16,000 people plus, and it's still growing. The Evansville plant, the past 3 years, we've put in over $10 million worth of, whether it be new machinery, new equipment, concrete for our heavy beams. So we want to be a part of the community, and I have young ladies that work for me that they've either been here in Evansville for their whole life, or their family's been longevity members for it. They keep me abreast, and so we're thankful to be able to be a part of this. I was able we were able to get involved in this part of it. We thank the Grove Society for allowing us to be here, and Christine and Dan to allow us to do this. There's a lot of longevity people that have worked for BlueScope for a long time that have retired. We have several employees that are here today, and I thank everybody, and the ones that came out today to be a part of this. And you can see the history, and the history has not stopped. The history is continuing in Evansville. Evansville is a vital part of BlueScope and their continued growth. And so we want to continue to grow here and be a part of the community. So that my team, they keep me actively involved in things that go on, because I don't know everything that goes on in the community, but we try to be involved in our schools and the recreations and the trade schools and our recreation that goes on in the community, and involvement in the high schools. So we just want to be a part, like Varco Pruden, the name. We want it to be BlueScope. We're BlueScope. We build two different type of buildings, and that's Butler and VPN, the two brands that we build under one roof of BlueScope. And the growth for Evansville and the Evansville facility, they want it to grow. That's part of my job, is to try to continue to hire for our company and let it be a vital part of what Varco Pruden was. And so we thank you. We allow this opportunity to be here, and I can't say enough about Evansville. My wife and I have been very well welcomed into this community. We've met some great people. Sad thing is, I'm on my verge of getting ready to retire, and I'll move back home eventually within less than 2 years. But hopefully we can continue the journey. The company's still wanting to invest. And so the bright light for Evansville is the Evansville facility is unlimited to what they want to do. It's a vital link into the structure of BlueScope. We have 6 companies in North America, and one part we fill the needs of the Northeast and in Canada. And so that link between the Canadian builders and American builders is huge. But it's the community involvement, it's the engagement with the people, and that they know that BlueScope is here, and we want to continue that here. So we'll just hope everybody enjoyed this. It was very knowledgeable to me, and what Dan and the team put together, and we're very humbled to be here. And so we thank everybody for coming out.
Thank you, Tony. Now, stump the chump. Let's have some questions. Anybody? If you didn't sign the guest book, please do so. Yes?
Dan, Creekside is a BlueScope building.
Thank you. Creekside is a BlueScope building.
Yes. So that's the most recent community-wide building.
It's good to know that we have all 3 versions of the company in Evansville. Buildings from Pruden Products, buildings from Varco Pruden, buildings from BlueScope. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. What else did I miss? What did I get wrong? Yes?
You didn't get anything wrong, but I wondered why Walt Spratt was from Evansville, wasn't it? He's the one that was the financial advisor for, I worked for both Pruden and Pruden Products. Walt Spratt was
Walt Spratler was one of Clark's key people, and when Pruden Products and Varco Steel merged, personally I don't believe there's ever a merger, there's a takeover. Clark Pruden and Gene Candle gave Mr. Spatler 10% of the profit from that sale. That's how much they thought of him. And one of the other stories is when the fire in '62 that burned the office building, which, and I haven't confirmed or verified it, but I believe that was in the masonry part of the canning company, and that was a 2-story section. When the plans were made for Steinman to design and build a new office building, 10,000 square foot office building, Spratler wanted it on the other side of the entrance road. Clark wanted it connected directly to the factory for a number of reasons. He wanted to be able to be on the factory floor frequently, and his idea was if the office needed to expand, they had the facility to expand into the office space. Thank you for bringing up Mr. Spatler's name. Appreciate it. He deserved recognition. What else did I miss? What did I get wrong? What else do you want to know? I couldn't put everything in the story. You didn't have 8 hours. Okay.
How many are employed at BlueScope? How many are employed at BlueScope?
Tony?
BlueScope Evansville or BlueScope as a company?
In Evansville.
But right around 200 people.
The BlueScope in Evansville plant has about 200 employees at this time. And there's room for expansion.
We want BlueScope wants to grow Evansville. There's no doubt about it. Our forecast for the future of by 2030, we build about 224,000 tons a year that nobody, by 2030, they want to build over 300,000 tons. So Evansville is a vital link in that plan.
And we've got the square footage for the planned expansion of BlueScope. So,
Upgrade all the machinery, right?
We put, in the past 3 years, close to $10 million so far. And there's still more. Our capital is still there to invest in more equipment to be able to do it. You need people, you need equipment, you need a community involvement to be able to make things like this work. It just don't happen just by one or two people. So got great people that work for BlueScope, that helps us achieve where we're at. And is it it's a picture perfect? It's an industrial world, right? So, but we do our best to make it a great company. That's the reason from 3 years ago when I came to Evansville, these young ladies, Tanya and Mackenzie and these other folks that have helped me for us to be a part of the community and to be engaged so that people know what we're about. There's great people that work out into the shop that I've got to know in our community. And it takes everyone for it to be a company to be successful. And so this is just a small part of it. We do our best to try to stay engaged in the community and the affairs that goes on in the company. This with society, just one small part. Just people to know who we are. You know, people know, they know this, they know Barco Pruden, but we just keep expanding and keep growing. Our company is up there with those two brands that we have, and they're spots are unlimited. I mean, there's no shortfall. Just continue growth in the world. If you look, if you don't know anything about BlueScope or Barco Pruden now, if you walk into a Costco, that's a building. You walk into an O'Reilly's, that's a building. You walk into football complexes, training centers, that's our buildings. So it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So
Tony and I will be around here for a little while if you got other questions that you don't want to ask right now. And visit BlueScope's table. They got some nice giveaways there. Yeah.
The Barco Pruden building, why is the Barco Pruden O-N and Union, why are the two done?
I'm sorry.
Why is Barco Pruden the family name O-N?
That was Clark Pruden. Clark Pruden's idea of spelling it phonetically for the business was, yeah, it was going to get spelled that way anyway when somebody wrote it down. So, so you didn't misspell it.
Are you an English teacher? Well, I just butchered the English language, so I apologize. She was sitting there saying, he said that wrong, he said that wrong, and he said that wrong, so I apologize. The plant that I worked for many years, I was invited to New York City to the board of directors meeting. And it was actually the building I could watch from the office and see the Twin Towers before the tragedy hit several years. But anyway, when I went to New York, I was scared to death. Here I am, a southern boy from the Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama area, going to New York City with the board of directors of see the movies with a long table sitting there and all the directors are all sitting around. Well, I walk into the plant in there and I talked to the owner and I said, this is going to be bad. It's not going to work out. They're not going to understand a word I say. And so I introduced myself kind of like I did here. I said, I want to apologize. I'm going to butcher the English language. And they just started rolling. They just started, and it broke the ice. So I hope it broke the ice a little bit here. But We're from the South. We use slang more than probably any place in the world. And I'm just a part of it, so I hope, I'm asking forgiveness. I ask forgiveness from the English teacher. So,
With Tony's comments there, it reminded me of one of the motivating things for Clark Pruden to agree to the merger of Varco Steel and Pruden Products was Pruden Products' main market was north of the Mason-Dixon line, and Varco's was south. And so to make a national organization and have an impact, that was part of the motivation for the good of the company to make that merger. And with the stories here, as an architect, I used, well, as a student, I used Pruden Products buildings in Iowa on 2 occasions, and I used Varco Pruden Products as an architect on 3 occasions. So direct contact there. But we're gonna let you go, and Tony and I will be around here if you have other questions, comments, stories. Thank you.